Welcome back to Unlock, Empower, Transform. I'm Shay Blackmon, founder and CEO of Shay Blackmon Consulting, DBA candidate in organizational leadership, and someone who has spent over 2 decades watching organizations bleed money through their back door while obsessing over revenue at the front. Today, we are talking about that back door. This is episode 69, and on Tuesday, I promised you the math. I told you we were going to put real numbers behind why strategic HR matters, and I do not break promises. Today's episode is the retention ROI, calculating the true cost of turnover. Now, if you caught Tuesday's episode, From Compliance to Competitive Advantage, you heard me challenge the notion that HR should live in the compliance corner. Today, I am going to give you the financial ammunition to prove why culture is not a soft initiative. It is a hard dollar business strategy. And by the end of this episode, you are going to have a tool you can use immediately to start making that case in your own organization. Let's do the math. Here's where most organizations start when they think about turnover cost. They think about the job posting, the recruiter fee, maybe the cost of onboarding a new hire, and they call it a day. That is like calculating the cost of a car accident by only looking at the tow truck bill. You have completely ignored the hospital visit, the rental car, the missed work, the increased insurance premiums, and the emotional toll on everyone involved. Turnover works the same way. In high-value leadership, transforming organizations through purposeful culture, I reference research showing that the cost of replacing a single employee ranges from 50 to 200% of their annual salary. Let me put that in real numbers. If you lose an employee earning $60,000 a year, you are not spending $5,000 to replace them. You are spending somewhere between $30,000 and $120,000 for one person, one departure. Now multiply that by the number of people who left your organization last year. Go ahead, I will wait. That is the number your CFO does not have on a spreadsheet anywhere. And that is exactly the problem. The replacement cost is just the visible iceberg. Let me walk you through what is happening underneath the waterline, because this is where the real damage lives. First, there is institutional knowledge loss. When someone walks out the door, they take relationships, process knowledge, client history, and organizational context with them. You cannot download that from a training manual. In manufacturing, which I know well, losing a seasoned operator does not just mean an empty station. It means slower line speeds, higher defect rates, and increased safety risk while someone new learns the role. That learning curve has a dollar amount attached to it, and most companies never calculate it. Second, there is the productivity ripple effect. When one person leaves, the people who remain absorb that workload. And they do it while also training the new person, while also managing their own frustration about why their colleague left, while also quietly updating their own resumes because they are wondering if they should leave too. Productivity does not just dip in the vacant role. It dips across the entire team. Third, there's what I call the trust tax. Every departure sends a message to the remaining workforce. If it is a high performer who left, the message is, this organization does not value excellence. If it is the third person to leave from the same department in 6 months, the message is, something is wrong here and leadership either does not see it or does not care. Either interpretation is devastating to engagement. Fourth, there is client and customer impact. Your customers build relationships with your people. When those people leave, the customer experience is disrupted, and in competitive markets, that disruption can send revenue to your competitor. I have seen this play out across every industry I have worked in, from automotive to healthcare to professional services. The client relationship walks out the door with the employee. And fifth, there is the innovation cost. Disengaged teams who are constantly backfilling and retraining do not innovate. They survive. They maintain. They keep the lights on. But they are not generating the ideas, process improvements, or creative solutions that drive competitive advantage. In my book, I cite research showing that organizations with toxic cultures have innovation rates 59% lower than those with healthy cultures. That is not a coincidence. That is a consequence. Now, here's where I see a lot of HR professionals and people leaders hit a wall. They know turnover is expensive. They feel it every day. But when they walk into a meeting with the CFO or the executive team and say, "We need to invest in culture," they get the look. You know the look. The one that says, "That sounds nice, but show me the numbers." So let me teach you how to show them the numbers. Because the data is overwhelmingly on your side, you just need to speak the language of finance. Step 1. Quantify your current turnover costs. Take your annual turnover number, multiply it by the average salary of departed employees, and then multiply that by 1.5. That gives you a conservative midpoint estimate of your total turnover costs. I say conservative because many studies put the multiplier higher, especially for specialized or senior roles. Step 2. Benchmark against your industry. If your turnover rate is higher than industry average, you have an immediate credibility point. You are spending more than your competitors to maintain the same headcount. That is a competitive disadvantage with a dollar sign in front of it. Step 3. Connect culture metrics to financial outcomes. In high-value leadership, I walk through research showing that companies with strong cultures see 4 times higher revenue growth and 21% higher profitability. Those are not HR metrics. Those are business metrics. And when you can draw a line between engagement scores, retention rates, and revenue performance, you are no longer asking for a culture budget. You are presenting an investment thesis. Step 4. Propose a pilot, not a revolution. CFOs are risk managers by nature, so do not walk in asking for a complete organizational overhaul. Propose a 90-day culture intervention in your highest turnover department. Define the metrics you will track, set a clear ROI target, make it measurable and contained. When it works, and when it is executed well, it will work, you will have the proof of concept to scale. This is what high-value leadership provides. It is not theory. It is a framework designed to produce measurable results that translate into the financial language your leadership team responds to. At Shea Blackmon Consulting, we developed a turnover cost calculator and prevention model specifically for growing companies. And I want to pull back the curtain on how it works because I think the methodology itself is instructive. The calculator goes beyond the standard replacement cost formula. We look at 6 cost categories: direct replacement costs, which are your recruiting, hiring, and onboarding expenses; productivity loss during the vacancy and ramp-up period; knowledge transfer gaps and the associated quality impacts; team disruption costs, including overtime, burnout, and secondary turnover risk; customer relationship disruption; and finally, cultural erosion, which is the hardest to quantify but often the most expensive long term. Once we establish the true cost baseline, we move into prevention modeling. And this is where high-value leadership trademark integrates directly. We use the 5 pillars: purpose-driven vision, stewardship of culture, emotional intelligence, balanced responsibility, and authentic connection as diagnostic categories. Each pillar maps to specific retention drivers. For example, purpose-driven vision connects directly to meaning and mission alignment, which research shows is one of the top 3 reasons employees stay or leave. Authentic connection maps to manager-employee relationship quality, which Gallup consistently identifies as the single strongest predictor of retention. The prevention model then identifies which pillars represent the greatest gaps in the organization and prioritizes interventions accordingly. This is not a one-size-fits-all program. It is a diagnostic-driven, data-informed strategy that addresses the root causes of turnover rather than just treating the symptoms. And for those of you who want access to this methodology and the full implementation framework, the High Value Leadership Intensive is designed to give you exactly that. The waitlist is open. Link is in the show notes. All right, exercise time. I call this the Back-of-the-Napkin Turnover Audit, and it takes about 3 minutes. You are going to calculate a number that will probably shock you, and then you are going to know exactly what to do with it. Step 1. Write down how many employees voluntarily left your organization or your department in the last 12 months. If you do not know the exact number, estimate. If you cannot even estimate, that itself is a data point worth noting. Step 2. Write down the average annual salary of those departed employees. If roles varied widely, just pick the midpoint. Step 3. Multiply the number of departures by the average salary and then multiply that result by 1.5. That is your estimated annual turnover costs, conservative estimate. Step 4. Now divide that number by your department or company's annual revenue. That gives you your turnover costs as a percentage of revenue. For context, in many mid-sized companies, this number lands between 3 and 7% of total revenue. That is money that could have gone toward innovation, growth, equipment, development, or profit. Step 5. Ask yourself one question. If someone handed you a proposal to recover even 30% of that number through a targeted culture and retention strategy, would that get attention in your next leadership meeting? That is the power of framing. You are not asking for a culture budget. You are presenting a cost recovery strategy. And that is how high-value leadership changes the conversation from soft initiative to strategic investment. Before I let you go, I want to connect this to you personally. Because if you are the person in your organization fighting to make leadership care about retention, fighting to get culture taken seriously, fighting to be heard as a strategic voice, that fight takes a toll. I know because I have been in those rooms across manufacturing, automotive, healthcare, nonprofit, quick service, and professional services, and the emotional labor of being the one who sees the problem clearly while others look past it is real. That is exactly why the SHIELD Resilience Strategy Guide exists. The learning orientation pillar of the SHIELD framework teaches you how to turn setbacks into strategic intelligence through the after-action review process. The guide walks you through 5 questions after any significant challenge. What happened? What went well? What could be improved? What will you do differently? And what did you learn about yourself, others, and the organization? That process is not just for personal resilience. It is a professional skill that makes you a better strategist, a better leader, and a more effective advocate for the changes your organization needs. The guide also includes the evidence file concept, which is perfect for what we discussed today. It is a running document of your positive feedback, problems you have solved, achievements, and milestones. When you are building a business case for culture investment, your evidence file becomes your personal proof of impact. Download the SHIELD Resilience Strategy Guide for free. The link is in the show notes. And if today's episode reinforced that you need a deeper framework for this work, grab a copy of High Value Leadership, Transforming Organizations Through Purposeful Culture. Chapter 15 covers the full ROI analysis, the measurement frameworks, and the data behind every number I shared today. The book link is also in the show notes. That is episode 69 of Unlock, Empower, Transform. I appreciate you spending your Thursday with me and doing the math that your organization probably should have done a long time ago. Here is what I need from you. Drop a comment and tell me, did you run the Back-of-the-Napkin Turnover Audit? What was your number? Were you surprised? I want to hear it. And share this episode with your CFO, your CHRO, your CEO, whoever needs to see the real cost of ignoring culture. Sometimes the messenger matters, and sometimes the message just needs the right numbers behind it. On Tuesday, we are tackling something I know many of you are feeling right now, leading through change fatigue, when your team can't take another initiative. Because even the best strategies fail when people are exhausted. And I have some perspective on how to lead through that moment without losing your team or yourself. Until then, stay purposeful, stay bold, and keep building cultures worth staying for. This is Shay Blackmon. Unlock, empower, transform.